Hey there, welcome to my 100 Days. That is a picture of the book you see on the screen right now, and it is what I am holding in my hand, my own personalized copy, signed copy from Chris Strub that was given to me by Chris at I always get it mixed up, VidCon in Anaheim, 2017, when I saw him there last year. It was an awesome show. Got to hang out a lot with Chris and got my own signed copy, which I read last year, actually, and I read a good portion of it this week just to kind of refresh myself. And I decided something today. Thank you, Chris, for all the shares. I love you, my friend, and I'm sorry that it's so late that I'm getting to do your book review, especially since I read it close to a year ago. But I always promised I would do a book review, and I actually intend to do more book reviews because I've got a lot of books behind me that I think are valuable content, and as I can, I'm going to share them with you guys. Now, I have some notes, so I am going to reference notes because there's a lot I want to talk about Chris's book, but there's a lot that I'm going to leave out too, because I would rather you read the book and enjoy the story yourself than for me to pinpoint all of the things that really impacted me in this book, because they're likely things that are going to impact you as well, and I'm not going to spoil the book. So let's just talk a little bit first about the organization of this book, because I think Chris did a great job. First of all, let's give you some background before we dive into organization. In 2015, Chris set out to do, and it was his second time driving the United States completely, of course, flying to either Alaska or Hawaii. Maybe he flew other places in the first time, but apparently in 2014, he did a big United States journey. But according to him, and let me see if I can find my quote, it had no tangible element of social good. So that's a quote from his book. His first trip had no tangible element of social good, but his second trip did, and that is the focus of this book. But he got in his car. He had a 2007 Honda Accord. He put the big words on the back. I believe it said 50 states, 100 days. Maybe it said something else as well. But he had a car that became the car. And as his journey went along, people would sign his car. Some people would sign it with their name afterwards. Some people didn't. Chris shares a lot of the quotes that were written on the car in his book. But his car and himself and his whatever money that he had, his credit cards, and his will and determination to see to it that he could visit youth organizations, at least one youth organization in every state. And not only, well, he was doing a couple things. First of all, he was raising awareness of the youth organization. So he was contacting media outlets, letting them know what his journey was, 50 states, 100 days. And teaching people at these youth organizations a little bit about the power of social media. He was using Snapchat. He was using Meerkat. Folks, this is, what was this, 2015? So Meerkat was still around. Snapchat was new, and Chris was utilizing these tools. In fact, I think Chris was the first person to Snapchat in all 50 states, probably the first person to Meerkat in all 50 states, and might have been the first person to do live video in all 50 states. I know he claims the title to a couple of those. I'm not sure which ones are accurate or which ones I gave to him and that he didn't claim title for. But look, in 2015, he was Snapchatting and Meerkatting and doing live video in 50 states. If anybody was doing it along the time that he was or doing it before him, I have no idea who they would be, because in 2015, even just 2 years ago, not many people were doing this at all. Chris was, and he was raising awareness of the youth organizations in the states. He was raising awareness of youth organizations in general, raising awareness of having a charitable heart and a charitable mindset, raising awareness of the power of social media, the power of live video to people in these organizations who are tasked with making sure that their organizations have the funds to run and the community support to run. So there were a lot of missions in this, and Chris took on this journey, and it was taxing on his finances. It was taxing on his health. It was taxing on his mindset. It was, it was very challenging. And throughout this book, there's a lot of moments where, Chris had, whether it was a breakdown of the car or a breakdown mentally or financial challenges or struggles. I mean, it's all documented very well in this. So now that you know what the book is about, let's talk a little bit about the way it's organized, because I think it's perfect. It makes for a very easy read, a very entertaining read, and you get a lot out of it. So he's got an organization where each chapter has an individual state kind of assigned to it. And each chapter has a photo. Each chapter has some quotes. Each chapter has kind of a diary, a description of what happened that day, what touched him, how he was able to touch others, what he gleaned from that day, the people he met. A lot of it was the people he met in the administration of these groups that touched his heart, or vice versa. A lot of the times it was the children in these organizations who immediately gravitated towards Chris. And they just had a good time, whether they were gardening, whether they were playing volleyball, whether they had cameras there and were talking to the cameras. Some places he had significant people there. In Alabama, he had the mayor come in from Montgomery, Alabama, come in and meet him. I mean, there was a lot going on, and each visit was unique. And that's what another thing that makes it fun is every time you go from chapter to chapter, you've got new stuff, new things happened. There were new adventures. There were new connections made. So let's talk a little bit. Like I said, I don't want to get too specific about the real moving moments of this book, because, that's part of the enjoyment of the read. And I'd like you guys to go and pick up this book. It's on Amazon. I think he's got it in an ebook format as well. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I've put a link down there. That is I do think that is an affiliate link, so I do get a slight commission if you click it. Feel free to click it, or feel free to go straight to Amazon if you don't like clicking affiliate links, and look up Chris Strub. You're going to find his book. Or you can buy it from him direct at teamstrub.com. So, but I do want to talk about a couple things that I really enjoyed about this book that kind of relate to me directly. He started the trip in Greenville, South Carolina, but his first youth organization visit was in Charleston, South Carolina. For his whole journey, his first stop was Charleston, South Carolina. I lived in Charleston, South Carolina. I've spent many summers there over my life. I moved from Charleston, South Carolina to Southern California 20 years ago. And if I moved anywhere at all right now, it would be back to Charleston, South Carolina. That's where I consider home at this point in my life. If California isn't, Charleston is it. So he started in Charleston. He was really moved by the people there. There was somebody there that he really enjoyed getting to know, and who was very passionate about her mission there in Charleston at the Carolina Youth Development Center. Kim Wright Brown, and she did, she lost her life in 2016, a year after Chris visited, and she was very passionate. And I know that really broke Chris's heart to hear that she had passed on. I don't know what from. It doesn't really matter. But she was on a mission, and she shared it with Chris, and they connected, right? And that was the start of his journey. And it went on from there. I mean, he went all 50 states. I'm not going to tell you the order in which they went, but his fourth day, after he left Charleston, his fourth day, oh, by the way, in Charleston, that's where he played volleyball. That's one of the reasons why I remember that he played volleyball at one of the places. It was in Charleston. He talked to the organizers there, and he was full of energy at that point. Later on in the book, you'll find that he had some significant challenges. I don't think he realized what he was in for to do this in 100 days in his car, going from place to place, because it was a huge mission that, of course, he accomplished, because it would be called something other than 50 states, 100 days. If it would be 47 states and didn't quite finish, if that would be the title, if he didn't finish. So we all know he finished, but the journey, you're gonna read about it. It's awesome, and how he overcomes things, and even maybe more importantly than how he overcomes things is how other people along his journey either help him directly, whether it's financially, whether it's giving him some food, whether it's helping him when he broke down on the side of the road, whether it's a phone call to family, getting through, some of the mental and emotional parts of it. I mean, it's all full. It was a real test of Chris's will, summed up nicely in this book. So 4 days into it, I think 4 days, or it was his fourth stop, was Montgomery, Alabama. That one I also particularly enjoyed, because I used to live in Montgomery, Alabama. When I was a child in the mid-'70s, I lived in Montgomery, Alabama, and I went to a school called Peter Crump Elementary for kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, I think. I might have gone to a kindergarten at a place called Greengate, although that might have been preschool. But Peter Crump Elementary, that happened to be the site that Chris went to work with a youth organization in Montgomery, Alabama. That's where he met the mayor of Montgomery. Let's see if I have the mayor's name. I thought I wrote it down. Where is it? Mayor Todd Strange. I should have. Todd Strange. Me being Todd, of course, and I'm Strange. I should have remembered that right off the top. So anyway, he met Mayor Strange. He was very delighted that the mayor found his visit significant enough to come out and spend time in his busy day at Peter Crump, showing him around and talking to Chris and the other people there. And Chris was given the Montgomery coin, a gold coin from Montgomery, and he interviewed the mayor on Snapchat. That's another important note. Snapchat, as I said, was pretty new back then. It was only college kids doing drunk stuff. So for anybody to use it in any sort of important or significant capacity was kind of a new thing. So interviewing the mayor on Snapchat, really cool. Later on in the visit, in fact, one of his last stops, I think it was his second to last stop, was Lexington, Kentucky. I went to University of Kentucky, so I thought it was really cool that he went to Lexington, Kentucky. And there's a quote in here. I haven't gone to try to find the video on YouTube. And folks, a lot of his interviews, a lot of extra material that accompanies this book is on YouTube. You know, news stories and interviews and things that he did or that other organizations did with him is on YouTube, and he links to it all in this book. But what I really found enjoyable about the Lexington, Kentucky stop, you know, among all the more important things, and this appealed to my juvenile humor, is that he thinks he did a film or an interview with a statue of a horse's butt behind his head. So if you've been to Kentucky, you know that wherever you go, there's a lot. I mean, it's horse country, right? Racing is big, breeding horses is big, and wherever you go, you can find a statue of a horse, a big horse. And whether that was intended or not, I'm sure it wasn't intended, but kind of a cool thing to have a statue of a horse's butt behind your head while you're doing an interview or being interviewed. So anyway, let me see if I have any final thoughts on this book. I guess that's pretty much all I really wanted to cover. I would rather you read the book. Look, there were some pretty moving moments in Chris's life in this book. I mean, huge moments where all the odds seemed to be against him all the way to the very end, and where other people came in and really kind of gave him the motivation and the inspiration to stick with it. And sometimes we need that. We like to think that we all have the drive to do what it is we're doing, but a lot of the times we could fall short if it wasn't for the people around us who, you know, got behind us and slapped us on the back and say, you can do this. And, you know, you're doing a great job, and, you know, you've just got a little bit more to go, or, you know, and I think a lot of people really came through for Chris. I know that Ryan Dupree came in. There was a big, meeting that he had where he was coming close to the very end, and Ryan came through for him in a major way, and it gave him the energy to finish up the trip and to see it through. I'm glad that he did, too, because it's just a fabulous thing that he did. It's a fabulous book that he wrote. It's a fabulous journey and mission that he had. My own personal perspective on this book, I think it's an easy read. It's a fun read. I have to be quite honest. I did not make great use of the extra materials that he links to throughout this book. In fact, I think there's an addendum there's not, but every chapter has links, hot links that of course you got to go and type out. You can copy them very easily. I did go and look at the links for the stories that involve the places that I had been to or connected with, such as Charleston, Lexington, Montgomery, Alabama. I did look all that stuff up. It's good stuff. But there's a lot of extra material if you're following the book and you want to see what else. Let me talk about what I know of Chris. He's one of the most giving people that I know. I know that this book and everything that was part of his mission that, brought about the events that led him to writing this book, he's very passionate about. He cares a lot about people. He cares a lot about all people. I know this. I've gotten to know Chris over the last couple of years, and in a way, he's a super connector. He seems to know everybody, but more important than that is everybody knows him. Look, if you're a big name out there, you know, it's great that that you know everybody or that you claim to know everybody, but it's more important that everybody knows you. And when everyone knows you, they like you or they love you or they're passionate about what you do and bring to the world. And that's Chris's tribe. People that know him, people that get to know him personally through social media, whatever it is, they all are the same way. They're very passionate about Chris. They love Chris, and they show it. They show it. You see it all the time. And Chris has that same love for other people as well, whether they're showing it to him or not. He's always showing it. It's just the kind of guy that he is. And to do a mission like this, to go out into the world and do what he did, it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of fortitude. It takes a lot of, you're just resolute. I mean, you want to finish it, and you want to get your, mission accomplished, and then on. I mean, his mission didn't end when this book was done. His mission didn't end when he pulled back into Greenville, South Carolina, and turned the car off for the final time on this journey. His mission continues today, and you see it every day. So get to know Chris, pick up a copy of his book. Hey, as a matter of fact, too, not trying to promote something else, but I actually have just tomorrow 2 interviews with Chris. One of them here is at the TriCast, Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. Then I have another on Instagram Live. If you're following me on any of these places, feel free to check the interviews with Chris. We have one of them tomorrow is going to be on the Power of Live video, and one of them tomorrow is going to be on the Power of Instagram. So we're going to be talking tomorrow a lot. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to get my book review in, is because kind of a refresher for me I read probably half his book, flipping through it over the last day or two, getting ready for my interviews with him and to do my book review. But he's just a fantastic person to get to know. So reach out to him at Chris Strub pretty much everywhere. Teamstrub.com, I believe, is still a current web address. And of course, his book, you can get it on Amazon. You can buy it directly from Chris. If you buy it directly from Chris, I bet you get a signed one. So, if you want a signed one, don't use the link down below. Go to Team Strub and get a signed one. With that, folks, I'm going to conclude. Chris, I know that you are with me. I think you're still with me in this live video today. Thank you so much for being my friend. You've been so supportive of me through the years. I apologize it's taken me so long to get the book review done, but I hope this book review, I'm doing it because I want to do it, folks, just so you know. And I'm just honored that it's my first book review. I actually want to do a book review series. I think that that's important for people to know what I'm reading and why. And I'm honored that this is the first one of the series coming up. I'll probably do about one a month, maybe. I don't want to be on the hook to read a book every week. I don't think I could commit to that, but, this is just a book that I'm passionate about. I enjoyed reading it. And, I enjoy that I have a signed copy and that I got from Chris in person. So with that, folks, feel free to leave comments below on YouTube, on Facebook, on Periscope. Thank you for joining. Pick up the book. Feel free to private message me if you have any comments or questions. And, I appreciate you watching today. Take care, folks.